you have to basically do less cleaning. Those people, they have higher living stipends when you're talking about like travel nurses, your traveling workers, your medical workers, pieces like that. Like they got more money to spend. That's all I'm gonna say. How I got into real estate. Ooh, child. I feel like this is so important because one, I like talking about money. I do. Two, I like talking about real estate or like me. But also three, I feel like sharing, it's important to emphasize and why kind of I do so much as far as like, I'm a single mother, like I'm in my 20s/30s. I was in my 20s at the time, like my last year, 29. Like I'm fairly young in terms of maybe what one might think is an investor, and two, like, child, I'm a silly Willy, okay? Yes, I'm pretty serious from the marketing side, the broadcast side, the CEO child. But if I can do it, you can do it. That's pretty much the message and kind of what I want to share. And two, like just some helpful tips that I've learned. Like along the way. So how I got started into real estate investment, and I am neither confirming nor denying timelines, because there was a couple different things. Sometimes I did do one of my first tests via like my mom's property. So let's just say, so there's that. So keeping that in mind, so okay? So no timeline. But I did end up doing Airbnb first, and whether it was with my one of my own properties, or whether it was through, a family member's. What I found was that in suburban areas, that it's a little bit more difficult to kind of hit that $1,000 a month threshold, right? And first of all, to do that also too while you're considering something a home space, that's also a little bit more difficult, like slowly cleaning out closets and, delegating one space that would hold like your personal items while you clean out a home. Like it's no joke. It's a process for sure, especially if you have a little one. So that was something that was a different process for me. I'll say that, child, it was a little bit hard. Like, you got a child, you clean out, like all the things. Like, it's hard, but it's doable. And so what I found was in the Midwestern town, because typically people think you just Airbnb in bigger cities, but no, people need to stay places wherever they're at. You know what I mean? Okay, so I started in sort of like a Midwestern town. So think Midwest, think like Toledo, Michigan, blah, blah, blah. And so most of the time when you're looking at Airbnb guests, it's typically people that are coming kind of to stay for the weekend. So they might get anywhere between, they might stay like 3 days a week, then you have to clean it. So you have to kind of keep in your cleaning fee if you're going to do the cleaning, like the work that it takes to strip sheets, strip beds, wash the sheet, put things down, wipe down all the surfaces, mop the floor, vacuum, like do it all again. That takes the time, right? And so you're looking at anywhere between, I think, with people majority coming to stay on the weekends, unless it's a major holiday, you'll make anywhere between, let's just say on a nice end, on a low end to a high end, like about $300 to like $1,100. Whereas where I found a cheat code, if you're doing a furnished stay, a short-term stay, which is anywhere between 30 to 90 days, then you can charge a little bit more, i.e. at minimum, maybe $1,100 to $2,000. And what I found was that those consumers, like you have to basically do less cleaning. Those people, they have higher living stipends when you're talking about like travel nurses, your traveling workers, your medical workers, pieces like that. Like they got more money to spend. That's all I'm gonna say. And oftentimes they're allocated budgets via their companies, like the places that they work. And so I turned my home into, or my living space, my primary living residence, into a Airbnb. And then after that, I ended up putting it into sorry, I lost my train of thought. I ended up going into a furnished space. Good Lord. Ooh, see how I lost my train of thought? So all those items. So it was a fairly easy process. It was a little bit difficult, I'll say, but once the money kind of started coming out, I was just like, oh yeah. And then also too, I think it gives you room to like travel or to get out there and to really just be able to do other things, whether it's take a mental health break, whether it's go and travel while somebody's paying off your mortgage or paying off your rent. You know what I'm saying? Subleasing and all those options. I had a friend actually, you know who really inspired me, maybe unintentionally? I had a friend who did it in LA. She subleased her apartment, and I was like, there's kind of like no way that I would do that. Like, I thought about it, but I was just like, it was such a foreign concept to me and so far away that it was something that I never would consider for myself. So to be just a few years later and essentially, not even essentially, doing the same thing, life is so wild. It's so funny. There's that. Also too, I think it also puts into place like ownership. You can do a lot of things when you own a thing. And I think, baby, I be feeling like they be trying to sell millennials a dream. Like, oh, you know, don't own anything. You don't have to short sign any long-term contracts. But just because you have, like, you purchased a home or you like own something, whether it's a car, whether it's a home, doesn't mean that you're locked in, doesn't mean that you're tied down. In fact, I found it to be the opposite, that it creates more freedom, that it creates more options, that it creates more choices. And I feel like that's like attainable. You know, it makes things more attainable. That's not in my opinion. So I feel like don't let them get you into like the leasing habit. If you can, automatically say for ownership, just because when you own it, it's yours. You know what I mean? So yeah, that is how I make 1 to 5K months as I got into my investment 1 to 2K. I think it's 1 to 2K. Didn't I say 1 to 2K? That is how I make 1 to 2K months from an investment property. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. What you think? If you would be an investor, if you have ever thought about investing, if you're like, I'm ready to flip my house and do something like Airbnb, or just anything above, below, in between, comment below, and I'll see you next time.